Everyone, welcome to the webinar for how to build amazing products with your community. This is your old pal, Ryan Williams, back in the Ryno Lab, author of the Influencer Economy book that I would love to share with you today, the insights to grow your business for how to build amazing. Just did my quick sound check. I'm doing well over here at the Ryno Lab. So I will just say hi real quick. Everyone always asks what I look like when I'm doing these webinars. So let me do that very quickly. I will stop screen sharing. Hey, it's me, Ryan, author of the Influencer Economy book. Also run Influencer School, which is a way to launch your product in 30 days that I'll be sharing as well. Host the podcast, the Ryno Lab. You can find it on iTunes, RYNO Lab. Please leave a comment. This is all about collaboration. It's a way for you to connect with me. Vice versa, I'd love to connect with you and hear how you're doing. Leave any comments on the sidebar if there's anything of interest to you. I'm going to be drinking my coffee over here, based in Los Angeles, wherever you may be. I hope you're having a great day or morning and afternoon or even night, because I know we get international visitors and viewers. So we will go back into the PowerPoint right now, but I want to say hi. Hello. Hi. Stephen and Stephanie and Pete and everyone who's messaging me right now. Greetings. Where are you all from? Oh, yeah. New York. We have Sydney, Australia. Greetings, Stephanie. Okay. So we got a global audience. I want to jump right into it and we'll talk to you all right now. I will screen share for you. So this webinar is all about how to build products with your community through collaboration. Because in the influencer economy, this world that I studied for so many years, I built out a framework that will help you to build amazing products with your customers, whether you have them already or you'd like to acquire the customers, because ultimately you can build a thriving business by piloting programs, giving out free access and helping others to collaborate and build the product with you and making it sure they love it so then they can sell it on your behalf and you can sell it to others. So you're in the right place if you want to build products to grow your customer base, or you've tried launching your business and need to build your base customers. It's all about generating profits here in the long run. And if you have a big vision and you haven't executed on it yet, we'll deal with those problems today to give you a framework to build out your company. And if you're a newbie or a seasoned pro looking to increase revenues, you're in the right place, because this is going to be at a market level where anyone who can apply it to their current company, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you are a startup founder, or even a solopreneur doing a side hustle project, this is a way for you to execute on your community development and building that customer base from that. And learn the framework to watch and collaborate with your team, then you are in the right place. So I'm a marketer, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a podcaster. I wrote the Influencer Economy book. I host a podcast of a similar name, Stories from the Influencer Economy, and the Ryno Lab is my podcast if you want to search for RYNO. And I'm a former stand-up comedian. So I am not going to be the typical webinar dry host. I am extremely self-deprecating at times. I will call people out in the comments if they say things that are trollish, getting back to my stand-up comedy roots. So I am a very original webinar giver, and these are some of the guests from my podcast. Troy Carter, who's Lady Gaga's former manager based in Los Angeles. Freddie Wong, who made Video Game High School an amazing series, as well as Willie Geist, who's the host of the Today Show. Previously, I've worked as a startup entrepreneur in Los Angeles. One company, Digison, was acquired by Disney for $16 million. Another company I worked for as an early employee was Machinima.com. And I was there when it was valued at $200 million, that they actually just sold to Warner Brothers for $100 million last month. So exciting times for me as a shareholder. And I was director of marketing at State.com, which is a venture-backed company that raised $14 million. Additionally, I self-published a top 50 Kindle creativity book, and I booked a US tour. I went to Canada as well to launch the book, and I did it all through my community collaboration. I'm now a paid speaker. When I went to Ottawa, I sold 100 books in Canada. There's my launch event in Los Angeles. We had 200 RSVPs, around 120 people showed up for it in Santa Monica, where I live. So I'm here to share with you how I collaborated with influencers to grow my base. So I've collaborated with Seth Godin, who was my favorite author. The book Tribe, if you haven't read it, is phenomenal, as well as The Dip. Brad Feld, who's an amazing startup investor based out of Boulder, Colorado, founded the collaborative community of tech stars to invest in startups. Derek Sivers, who's a great prolific writer, started CD Baby. And I got some amazing book endorsements from Nir Eyal, Jay Samit, Willie Geist, and all these things I did from scratch. I had no connections with these influencers, and they helped give me social proof to build my customers. Finally, I've been featured in Inc. Magazine, HuffPost, Success Magazine, and USA Today. So overview today, we will be launching your idea and building your big vision. We will talk about building your core community. We'll talk about how to mobilize that community to become your top ambassadors, your salespeople, and your marketers. Because psychologically, what I realized through my research is that your community wants to help you succeed. So you need to give your product out early in the process, getting that feedback to iterate to make it better. And ultimately, once you do that, people will want to psychologically see you succeed and become your top marketers and your top salespeople just by word of mouth. And even though you think that giving it out for free is not the right way, maybe you charge for it and you give it a discount. We'll be getting into that today. And finally, we're getting into the collaboration with influencers once you have built your community, because you never want to go to influencers early. You never want to pitch people that are investors or key customers unless you have that base of people that you've really proved out your concept. And finally, you want to thrive with your business and build your base and scale this as, $100,000 to $1 million business over time. And you need that core community and the collaboration with the customers and influencers early in the process. So here we are, the Influencer Economy Framework. My book is about 10 modern principles that I found that influential people had in the traits of their success. And I've given this talk all over the world. I'm going to Google up in Mountain View in a couple weeks to give the same talk to their product designers and developers, as well as the marketers. In Mountain View, I'm super psyched about that. I've done it in Canada, up in Ottawa, like I mentioned. And so the 3 steps I synthesized through my collaboration with podcast guests, my work at Machinima, and my ultimate business that I'm running now is influencers and people that want to build customer bases. They launch their idea, they share it with their community to collaborate, and they thrive by scaling that business. So you launch and collaborate, share, thrive. And these are my 10 principles of the book, many of which we'll be going through today, because I believe you need to create a strong message. One thing I've learned through this process is your messaging is just as important as anything else through community building. You got to craft that big vision to execute on. You need to pick a platform and a channel to reach out to that community. You got to book all your gigs. You got to deal with rejection. I have Jay-Z right there as the emoji. And I jokingly say this emoji is to reach millennials. So anyone listening who's a millennial, I hope this resonates with you. You have to adopt technology early and think about how it can be a solution, whether it's building your email list or authenticating your mobile app or building out a product base through webinars like I'm doing. And ultimately, step 5 is being authentic. Authenticity when you see it. You can't describe it. You just have to live it. And ultimately, I feel like authenticity is an overused term that I love and I hate. But ultimately, the collaboration element comes from that authenticity. And it allows you to build that base, to capture lightning in a bottle, to ultimately, step 8 is meeting people in real life, like getting to know your customers intimately and helping them. Step 9 is opening doors for other people, making introductions, building connections, being a giver to your customers and the influencers you're collaborating with. And finally, there's something I call emotional ownership. And you have to give that to your community. And that's getting that feedback on the product, but it's also giving them a sense of emotional connectivity, that you're meeting their needs, you're solving that problem. So they buy, and they help you sell. And the community will be your biggest advocates and your best friends. Step 1, like I mentioned, is launch. You need to launch it. This is Kanye West. Like I said, this is an unorthodox webinar. I like to throw this in there because Kanye West doesn't care if he makes mistakes, but he's the biggest global brand right now in music. And he embarrassed himself with Taylor Swift by stealing a spotlight at the MTV Awards a couple years back. But unless you're Kanye West, no one cares if you make mistakes. So build your product, launch it. Don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of failure, but put yourself out there. And the first principle, the first step in the launch process is craft that big vision. Like, go big with your idea and start making something simple that drives you to succeed. And often, like with me, I just started my podcast and interviewed influencers. I started getting guests like Adam Grant on and Willie Geist of the Today Show. Adam Grant wrote this great book called Give and Take. He's a hero of mine. And I just started interviewing these people to find purpose. And then from that, the book really catalyzed. And I had this big vision to write a book, The Influencer Economy. But without starting that podcast, I never had that book. So ultimately, you craft a big vision. And these guys are called Nerd Fighters that you'll see on the screen. And they started this channel called the Vlog Brothers. These are two brothers, Hank Green and John Green. Hank Green is an entrepreneur and a YouTube creator. He runs a SciShow on YouTube. And then John Green is an artist. He's an artist. He actually wrote the book of Fault in Their Stars. If you've seen that movie, he's the author of it. They built this big community around nerd fighting, which I will get into later. But this is about a small project on YouTube that turned into an amazing career for both of these prolific creators. And ultimately, you got to start small, think big, and craft that vision, but pick a smaller project to get you on the roadmap. And ultimately, my book turned into a tour, which turned into a school, which has turned into a consulting business. But I would never have started and finished like I did without having that podcast as a smaller project. So then once you get to your vision, you got to pick a channel, you got to pick a platform, and you need to pick a way to connect with people through an email list, through a product development process, to start getting that feedback and building the audience and customer base. And finding a name and a logo and a website is obviously so critical, but you need to embrace your personality and be who you are through the product and through the community. And embracing yourself means mashing up 3 parts of your personality to make you unique. I recommend you have a value proposition of 3. You need to validate anything you've created in 3 separate ways to validate why you can execute on your roadmap through the big vision. For example, my big vision was the Influencer Economy book. I want to write the book. I'm not a professional author. I'm not a writer. I haven't sold anything through Amazon at all. So my channel, my platform, my opportunity to build community was on my podcast. Why was the podcast right for me? 3 ways to validate. The first one, I'm a former stand-up comedian. I love connecting with audiences. Second one is after comedy, I love marketing and I love having conversations around marketing. And I ran marketing at machinima.com. So I had a network of great guests. So my first guests were these amazing, prolific YouTube creators that were all in the book. From Freddie Wong to my buddies at Machinima, Adam Grant to the Rooster Teeth guys, that people you've never heard of that are hugely influential online. So I had the guests booked. So the first reason was I was a comedian. I love audience development, connecting with people. The second one is I had a great network and I could tap into those people to be my guest. The third reason was the obvious. I'm writing a book. I need to connect with influencers. I need to study their habits. I need to get my foot in the door with influential people to do the research to get the book done. So when building a platform or building a channel to connect with that community, to start your core, you got to build the core immediately. I want to channel my father-in-law. Joe Moore has a boiler repair company in North Carolina. That's him on the right with his German Shepherd. His father, who started the company, is in the middle. And on the far left is a client of theirs from the 1970s. So he told me, this guy never uses the internet, doesn't have social media accounts, barely uses an iPhone through, just learned how to use FaceTime. So he's not the most tech savvy, but the platform, community, channel, it really applies to any business. So he said you need to give people something they can't get anywhere else in anything you do in quite the same way. So give people like something they can't get through mashing up your personality, thinking about your idea, and building that community base through your platform. Equally, he said, develop a knowledge or skill that most people don't have and then share it with them. For me, it was my influencer economy framework. It was building out the tech for my product that became my course. It was going on my book tour and educating people and making them smarter for how to launch, collaborate, and thrive in the modern economy. And ultimately, you got to solve pain points. You got to make the problem easier for these people to get what they want to further their career and their business and their lives. So ultimately, your product has to help them make money or help them build something that they need to make them more efficient. So solve those pain points, develop a knowledge or skill that most people don't have, and then share that with them, or give people something they can't get anywhere else in quite the same way. The third framework in your first launch process is do every job as a solopreneur, as an entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur. You need to build your base community through launching it with others and booking your own gigs, because you got to deal with rejection. Like Jay-Z said, you're not a businessman, you're a businessman or woman. You got to be the business. You got to be the product designer, the developer, the marketer, the community builder. You got to champion the ideas to motivate your team. You got to be the leader. The leaders of the influencer economy, they all step up and they build that base through doing everything. Because once you do the job and you show that you are the marketer, the community builder, the product designer, and you hire people to execute, they will respect you because you have built this idea and championed it, and you've done it all yourself. It's like going to your boss at your company because you want to launch a new division or build a new product with your customers. You need to champion the idea with your other employees and get your middle manager to buy into it, or even get your coworker to buy into it, and maybe get your customer and say, hey, I piloted this program with a customer. They're not paying for it. Let's double down. I want to run this sales division because I built that base of community members or collaborators that buy into what I do. So book your own gigs and develop that launch team so you know you're going big with your idea, you're building it out, and ultimately the launchers will create a way for you to propel it so the influencers will buy into it. And once your influencers buy into it, it turbocharges your idea, and that customer base sees your social proof that you're working with these big brands. Like if Microsoft is your ideal customer, right? But you get a bunch of smaller deals with smaller businesses. You go to Microsoft and say, I have these 6 case studies, and that launch team is ultimately driven from your customer base. And you got to adopt technology. Influencers and leaders in the digital age, people that have built big businesses, are not afraid of customer solutions through tech. They build ideas out through tech. I recommend build your email list for any business or any company. Social media comes and goes. Twitter, right? Twitter was big. Now it's failing in the stock market. You have Google Plus that came and went. Facebook groups, they keep changing their terms of services. Facebook's now adopting virtual reality. They hired a whole team because they acquired this company, Oculus Rift. So you got to figure out, like, is VR right for you? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But ultimately, emails, and build solutions on your website to acquire these emails through AppSumo and different companies like Lead Pages. And finally, be curious around technology and always embrace and adopt. You don't have to be the first person to use Snapchat. I'm not saying you need to build a massive audience there if it's not right for you. But maybe it's something around Slack. Maybe you need a private Slack channel. Maybe you need a private Facebook group for your alpha community. I always recommend you build that community in a private environment. I have a Facebook group. You can email me and you can join it. It's a way to share my ideas, collaborate with people, build that core through Facebook. And Slack is another frontier that I'm actually getting into now. I'm building a private Slack group. Always be curious and figure out how to galvanize that base through the tech and emails. That's gold. I want to admit something that I'm not ashamed to say. I check my emails every day when I wake up, often in my bed. I talk to my wife first. I'll be honest. And if my kids are awake, I talk to them. That's my rule. I need to talk to them before I check emails. And it's a bad habit, but it's true. So most of us check emails, and it's never going to go away. And it's always going to be part of our professional life. The next step, the major step, right, is collabing. The collaboration, the sharing of your work, getting the feedback from the base of people who you've launched with, whether that's your partners at work, your entrepreneurship buddies, your colleagues, your friends, your email list of 150 people, your email list of 10,000 people. Collab, collab, collab. This is my book cover selection. As you know, you saw the book cover earlier for the influencer economy. Again, I'm giving you the framework that I created to build my customer base. And I gave out my book covers to my community on Facebook. I had hundreds of people on my Facebook group, and I said, look, here's my book cover selection. I have one graphic designer who worked on these covers and another graphic designer who worked on these covers. And I found out through my research, if you give people choices to help make your product better, two things happen. One, they make your product better because that's your goal. You want them to make your product better. The second is you actually get people psychologically invested in what you're doing. So they bring their word of mouth marketing and ultimately they become your sales channels. And you're not using people, you're actually building this with them. So they're psychologically, one, making the product better. And two, they are your top Amazon customers. So people who I collaborate with and they help me make my book selection. I didn't use any of these covers. I thought the one on the left just seems like it's not me. It's not a rocket ship. The one in the middle looks like Twitter. I'm not a social media network expert. And all these different covers, the one on the right looks like an acid Kool-Aid test from the 1960s. Bottom right is too sci-fi. The center one bottom looks like YouTube. And the third one, I'm not Sherlock Holmes over here finding solutions. So ultimately, building this base community, giving them choices, it gave them ownership of the idea. So the community were the first people to leave Amazon reviews. They were the first people to share it on Facebook, the first people to buy it and pre-order the book, because psychologically, they helped me make it better. And that's an underrated element of collaboration, is the more you let people into the process to get feedback on your logo, to get data access and tell you what they like or don't like, then they will invest and share it on your behalf. So authenticity is an overused word in building a product or getting your core base together and finding that community. But you got to be who you are. Authenticity means being comfortable in your own skin. And when you collaborate, you have to find the truth in what you do and share and stand behind what you say. This example right here is Mark Maron has a podcast called WTF. Does anyone listen to this podcast? It's a really great, funny show. I listened to a lot of episodes. I interviewed the producer of Maron's show on my podcast. And Barack Obama, the president at the time, he came on the podcast and went to Mark's garage. Mark talks about depression, mental health issues, his stand-up comedy career. He's the real deal, and he gets it. So Mark is an influencer. The president came on Mark's podcast because Mark has a channel. He has an audience, and he collaborates with that audience. So ultimately, authenticity means being comfortable in your own skin, standing behind what you say, finding the truth in what you do. And then the next area that I want to talk about is community collaboration. This is my brother cooking at Benihana. He was not a great chef, but he had the opportunity to do it. And I believe you got to let people in your creative process. You got to open it up in your alpha, your beta, pilot your program, give it out for free, give it to the people in advance, sell it at a discount, pilot everything out, and often don't make a product until you get paid for it. Rule of thumb is, Vice Media, they never make stuff unless there's a sponsor. Vice Media, a big company that has a lot of YouTube content, and HBO Go is their partner. HBO has an app. You can watch Vice videos on demand. And they do a lot of like cutting edge social conscious videos. They do videos about the environment. They do videos around music. And it's really for a millennial audience. And they never give out stuff for free. They sponsor everything. So let people in early, charge them. Don't be afraid to ask for money, but give them a discount, price anchor it. If your product's going to be $1,500 at launch, give it out for $500 and give people an incentive to give you feedback to make it better so you can sell it for more money later. And there's also influencer collaboration, which is really the secret sauce. It's a way for you to get buy-in from Microsoft, if that's your ideal customer, from the top YouTube star, if you're making a product for YouTubers, from podcasters that can book you on as a guest to get you more downloads, to Product Hunt and getting the right influencers to upvote it. So make content with influencers. Don't ask them for coffee. Ask them to collaborate. Incentivize them to give you feedback on your product at the right moment. But you have to have a customer base. You can't just say, hey, come and be an alpha member. No, wait for the beta release. Like Willie Geist from the Today Show, I didn't invite him to come on as guest number 4 to my podcast. He was guest 25. I didn't go to Seth Godin from day one and say, hey, can you come on my podcast and be guest number 4? Seth Godin, he wrote this book called The Dip. It really changed my life. And The Dip is a book where you're going through a tough moment in life and it's really hard. So you either professionally need to quit what you're doing to do something else that you want to succeed at, or fight through the dip and stick with what you're building and creating. And so I went through the dip with my product. I'm still fighting elements of the dip like we all do daily, but I'm sticking with it. And I love Seth Godin. He's a hero of mine. So I didn't really get a chance to collaborate with him until I'd done 80 episodes. So I didn't go over there and, email him and say, hey, Seth, come on and be guest number 15. I needed that social proof from the community of customers that I've already worked with, that have endorsed my podcast, like Brad Feld, the tech investor that I mentioned, Derek Sivers, and then Seth came on. So don't go to influencers from day one. Collaborate. Find your initial customers, find your initial community members to get that social proof. And also I had 110 iTunes reviews on my podcast before I went to him. So he's like, oh yeah, Ryan's vetted. I'm not wasting my time, because they don't want to pilot with you. Pilot with the early adopters, but don't pilot with the influencers. And don't forget that. That's often overlooked. Don't get the influencers on too early. Wait until you reach them. And then the final step here in the collaboration process is you double down or you pivot. Find that micro community. The micro community is the 3 archetypes of people who are your ideal customers. For me, my first customers were entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or intrapreneurs. The entrepreneurs are people that went all in, started their company. The solopreneurs are the people that have side hustles and side products. And the entrepreneurs are people at companies that want to bring entrepreneurial thinking to their old corporate environments. So once I realized these people were my core, I doubled down on them. Everything I made, I wrote the book for them. My tour was for them. My online courses for them. My consulting business is for them. I didn't have to pivot. I was lucky. But sometimes you got to pivot. I don't know if you realize this, but Twitter wasn't launched as Twitter. It was actually called Odeo, and it was a podcast network. But the podcast community was being taken over by Apple at that point. This is 10 years ago. So Twitter realized, hey, we should do something different. So they built this micro blogging platform that became Twitter. Facebook didn't launch with the wall. Facebook didn't launch with a news feed. Facebook launched with college kids in Harvard. They found that early adopter community and they doubled down on it. They didn't have to pivot, but they got that feedback. Like I'm saying, you got to collaborate with these people and your early customers to find out what they love and creatively brand yourself in the process. Because what I realized is you got to move on if it's not working. And Instagram sold to Facebook for $1 billion. What people don't realize is Facebook was Instagram was a location-based check-in app. It wasn't even a photo app. It was like Foursquare, if you've seen that. So they pivoted, they moved on. The market wasn't big enough, and they sold for $1 billion. So move on if it's not working. Keep collabing, get constant feedback, constant iteration, and pivot if you have to, or double down. I'm going to grab some coffee. How's everyone doing? We'll take a quick assessment break and make sure we're doing well. We're really good on time. But ultimately, like the Ryno Lab, I want to tell you, I'm jumping right back into this. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or, always email me. So I rebranded my podcast was originally called The Influencer Economy. He helped me write the book, as a catalyst to get my podcast guests. I relaunched my podcast because I realized that 4 syllables or less with hard consonants is the way to go with any idea. Ryno Lab. It's a laboratory for people to talk about their ideas, to say how they launched and collaborated to thrive with their business in the modern digital age. It's a better logo. It's catchy on iTunes. I have t-shirts and socks. I've made products. I have the influencer school and coaching program, my consulting group. This is my consumer-facing Ryno. It's my mascot. It's my brand identifier, and it's more relevant. And I've relaunched and I pivoted around everything in a way that's more consumer-friendly. Because Influencer Economy is a great name for a book, not a great name for a podcast. And the logo of a book can't be your brand, but the Ryno Lab is. The final phase of collaborating to build your customer base is how to thrive. Thriving means launching a great business. That's all it is. Launching a big business, launching a great business, kicking ass with it. I hope it's a PG-13 show, so I hope you aren't offended. So the traits of influencers that I studied about how to build the customer base is treat your community. Oops, I left a C out of there. Treat your community as equals, elevate them, be a giver. Give them what they want. Open doors for them. As an example, I wrote an article for my community, why helping people and expecting nothing in return is the best business model for life. I had a community member who I shared the article with. This guy went to Wharton Business School, right? Super successful, has a career as a movie. He does movie and TV app building in Los Angeles. So I found out later he sent this article to Adam Grant, who wrote the book Give and Take, which I mentioned. And Give and Take is all about how givers succeed the most in life, but they also fail the most in life. So he's this paradigm that we are givers and we are matchers and we're takers. Most of us are matchers. You help me, I help you, quid pro quo. Takers, you can imagine who they are. They take. But ultimately, the give and take paradigm is in line with this article I wrote. So I got connected through a community member to Adam Grant, who came on my podcast. Cut to a couple years later, Adam Grant wrote a book blurb for me endorsing the influencer economy. That is incredible. And I never would have met him if I didn't get this blind introduction from a community member. And I put myself out there. I wrote a blog post. They opened doors for me, which gave me business credibility. And now I have this endorsement from a great author who helps me build my business now because I can say that he wanted to endorse me. So it's all about opening doors, helping others to build that customer base. Meet people in real life. Go to conferences. Meet your customers. Do Skype calls. So you got to attend larger conferences. You got to join influencer dinners and lunches and make the conferences smaller. So meet these people in real life. Meet your customers. Do Skype chats. Get feedback consistently. Upsell them in a way that's authentic and real. Plan dinners with them. Introduce them to influencers. Attend lunches. Make conferences smaller. Don't be overwhelmed by going to VidCon, Comic-Con, South by Southwest, TechCrunch, Disrupt. Do dinners. Bring out your customers to dinner. It matters. Meet them face to face. And also, give your people ownership. This is the final step of the book. Give your customers ownership. Give now, people will pay later. Represent these communities for product features. You fight for them. Listen to them. I mentioned before there's emotional ownership. Emotional ownership means you give people an incentive to make your product better by asking for feedback. And emotionally, they're going to love you because you've heard them. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake in the future. You've heard them. You've validated their worth in building the product that they want, and they will help you sell. Selling is the most important part of building your business. We're all salespeople. Your community will become your ambassadors, your brand evangelist, and your emotional ownership of your idea. If you give it to them, you will receive in tenfold. So please keep in mind, I shared with you my book principles. And today, nothing is theory. This is a step-by-step guide for exactly what I did to quickly build my platform. It's a system that's formulaic. You can immediately implement if you have an idea or a vision and you're spinning your wheels. This is a method that I work with every day. Influencers I studied worked with it, and companies like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Slack have all implemented it. So I use the same system. I found my vision. I built my platform. I have a community. I launched my company. I have written my new resume to collaborate with other influencers, creating my own opportunities and booking my own speaking tour. That wasn't a small feat. I booked all my gigs. I went to North Carolina, New York. Where else did I go? San Francisco, LA, my home, New York City, Ottawa, Canada. Gigs came because I booked them. I didn't have a booking agent. And what's remarkable is I have a great story I want to tell you. I went to Ottawa, Canada to give a tour talk. They bought 100 books. I spoke at a conference called TyCon. And it was for entrepreneurs. I ran a workshop there. Someone who listens to my podcast reached out to me to invite me to come speak at this conference. I sold books. I built my business. I was my first keynote speaker opportunity. I keynoted at the conference. So ultimately, it was a great experience and a remarkable time that came from this community. It works. It's all about the mindset. It's about achieving the freedom you want and you've heard about. It's about calling your own shots, writing your own check, and getting a promotion at work, getting rid of the insecurity, and feeling like a fraud. The imposter syndrome where you feel like you don't belong is always so important. It's about gaining the confidence to get your message out to the world in a big way to change lives. So I'm not sure why you're here. It could be like yourself. Like I was, making other startup founders rich with their companies. Like I will admit, Machinima sold for $100 million. I took a loss on that company. My stock didn't vest the way I wanted it to. I made investors money. I made some founders money. The CEO got paid $2 million for getting the exit. I lost money. I bought my stock for $3,000 and I made $500. I'm taking a loss on this. Maybe you had a vision or a mission that you want to start an online business like I did. Could be because you've been struggling to launch your new idea at work and you're an entrepreneur and you want to execute. Or maybe you're starting a family and you want more freedom and you want to do this on your own and you don't even have a job at a big company and you want money or time to do the things you love. So this is where I'm bringing up Influencer School. I am transparent. I'm launching a course. I'm piloting it right now. I'm starting it in 2 weeks. It's the fastest way to grow an influencer school and grow a community and build a platform ahead of your product launch to collaborate with those community members to avoid launching your awesome product without an audience or customer base. It's what I did. It's what Twitter did. It's what Slack has done. I will give you the tools to implement this in your life through Influencer School, which I'm piloting right now. So it's how to build your platform and influence. It's a 5-module video course which will be weekly webinars. It'll be videos and PDFs. You'll be meeting other entrepreneurs or professionals with one-on-one coaching calls, weekly Q&As with me and other students. And I'm actually launching it in a couple of weeks. I actually pushed the launch date because I'm piloting it. So it's a 5-week module course, PDF and video, like I mentioned, with coaching calls, and will be unlimited email support and Q&As with other students. So you think, Ryan, have you done this before? Ryan, who else have you worked with? So these are some fellow collaborators from when I ran this previously over the summer. The insights Ryan gave me and other members of the group have given me perspective I wouldn't have had otherwise achieved. The group has kept me going, accountable, which is imperative when you want to start and launch something on your own. So that's Lana, founder of KidSpot, worked with Joe, who created a podcast, Glenn, who is the founder of Goat, which is a tech app. And these people are all over the country. I helped Joe be laser focused to not only the overall vision of my business, but also the small daily steps that have led to its success. And finally, Glenn, he said, Ryan has been influential. You know what testimonials are all about, but I will read them because they're important to hear. If you want to believe that this is the program for you, I want to make sure it's right. And Ryan has been influential to helping me understand the strategies and share my launch idea. I highly recommend it for anyone looking to turn their idea into a reality. It could be as an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. So I hope you get what I'm saying. I've discovered the perfect path to getting what you want and have implemented and fine-tuned my strategies over the last year. It changed my life. I have something simple you can follow, even if you're just getting started without the guesswork. Over the next 6 to 12 months, you can start seeing the same amazing things happening in your life like I did mine. So I want to give everyone a gift to join this. If you came on the webinar, it's about how to build your brand and big vision action sheet. And it's direct feedback from me on this webinar. If you email me in 48 hours, I will give you this gift. Ryan@influencereconomy.com. It's about how to make a big vision, create smaller projects to build your community now. And I'll give it to you and I'll give you feedback if you email me in 48 hours. And before I exit, I want to tell you that the Influencer School is launching for $497. And the pilot is going to start in 2 weeks. The pilot will be $497 while I will be selling the school for $1,500 at launch. So if you want all this, you want the community, you want your product launch, you want your customers in 30 days, I will guarantee your launch in 30 days or your money back. But we're launching it for $497 and we will charge this for $1,500 at launch. So get in. It's a 5-week program, $497. This is the big sell at the end, the big reveal. Like I said, I'm a former comedian, so I'm going to be completely transparent. This is the sell. It's $497. These are the testimonials of people who've done it. I will sell it for $1,500 at launch. This is the pilot program. Like I said earlier, you have to pilot your ideas. So you'll give me free feedback. I'll make your feedback better, and I'll make your product launch. Money back guarantee if you don't get what you wanted, because I strongly believe this pilot will transform your business. Lana, Joe, Glenn, they've all transformed their ideas. And ultimately, you've seen the Ryno Lab, and this is what it's all about. Like I said, I pushed the launch date to add this extra 2 weeks for everyone to join the school. And I'm really fired up about it. I'd love to help you. I will change your business trajectory. I've done it before. I did it with myself. I've done it with Machinima, Disney, and big companies. So please let me know. I'll give you the gift as well. And finally, this is how you build products with your community through collaboration. I'll stick around if you have any questions on the webinar. Anyone have any questions? You can email me as well for that free guidebook and feedback. But yeah, this is where I'm adding value. I'm giving this for $497. And if you have questions for the next 48 hours, I will answer anything. Ryan@influencereconomy.com. Thank you so much for collaborating with me today on this webinar. And thank you so much.